Hi, let's talk about the ISLM model. So in ISLM model, we have a chart that consists of two lines. The horizontal line, so the left, right, represents GDP economic output. If I draw a point here, that will mean that the GDP, the economic output, is high. If I draw a point here, that would mean that the economic output is low. Top and down line, the y-axis represents interest rates. So a point in here would mean there are high interest rates, meaning that if you borrow money from the bank, you will pay a lot of interests. If I draw a point here, that would mean that the interest rates are low, meaning that if you borrow from the bank, you will pay little interest. So the money is cheap down there. In here we'll be drawing two lines, IS and LM. IS is a line where investments equals savings. Investment is like people buying like materials or whatever, doing some business. And savings is like how much people earn, how much people can save. LM is a line that represents the money markets, so the money demand and money supply. Maybe we'll actually start with the LM because it's, in my opinion, easier to understand. Although both of them are easy to understand. Look, money demand equals money supply. If we have high economic output, so in here, right, we have high economic output, right? So that means a lot of people want to invest, a lot of people want to do business. So the country will say, okay, if you need a lot of money, we'll raise the interest rates. So the interest rates will also be high. That's why when a lot of people want to borrow money, there is limited amount of that money that can be lent out by the banks. So the countries increase the interest rates in order to make it harder to get all of that money, to keep the money demand and money supply equal. Let's say we have money demand, like people want to borrow 200, but the bank can only borrow 100. So the interest rates will go up. Let's say that it costs 10% every year to borrow money. So if you borrow 100, you will have to pay 110 in a year, let's say. Just an example like that. So the money demand might go below that. The money demand might go to 100 because one person said, okay, at that interest rate, if I borrow, I won't be able to make a profit. So only people that have very profitable investments that can make above 10% plus the risk are going to be willing to borrow at that high interest rates. But if we have low economic output, the central banks will set the interest rate at a low level in order to boost the demand for money, because there is a lot of money in the economy, but because the economic output is so slow, not a lot of people are willing to invest, etc. That's why we are lowering the interest rates in order to make the money more available for them. So if a person goes to a bank and said, okay, the economy is not doing well, but I have this investment that will give me 9% in profit. In times of high interest rates, when the interest rate will be 10%, that person will go to the bank, get $100, and after a year, it will earn $9, but the interest will be $10. So the interest will be higher than the return on that money, meaning that the person will, in real terms, lose $1. So nobody will want to borrow, of course. But if the interest rate is low, let's say that the interest rate is 2%, then that person will earn $9 in a year and pay $2 interest. So it will be $7 profit. So it's better to boost an economy. If the economy is slowing down, then there isn't a lot of demand for money, not a lot of people want to invest. That's why we lower the interest rates in order to make it better for them, to make the money cheaper. So lower interest rates happen when we have a slow economic output, lower GDP, Then we have smaller demand for money. So we want to boost that demand by decreasing the interest rate, like I explained with the example. So in here, it will help us keep the money demand and money supply in equilibrium, so equal. In here, on top, when the economic output is high and a lot of people want to invest, the high interest rates will make it harder for them to access money. So that's why money demand will be equal to money supply. In here, where not a lot of people want to borrow money, so the demand is low, you will boost that demand by decreasing the interest rate, and the money demand will equal money supply. Okay, so that's the LM line. Let's jump to investments and savings line. Okay, let me clean it up a little bit. Okay, so the LM was the blue one. Let's go with the red one for the investments and savings line. Okay, so in here, if the economic output is high, so in here, the interest rates will be lower, because lower the interest rates means that a lot of people can borrow and it will boost the GDP. If the interest rates are high, then the economic output will also get lower. Why? Because not a lot of people can borrow money, so not so much investment happens. A person goes to a bank, says, I have this amazing business idea, it will give me 10% every year, and the bank says, okay, but we can borrow you money for 11% interest. And they say, okay, like I won't be able to make any money. So it like higher interest rates slow down the economy. So for instance, if we have some crisis, that's when the central banks lower the interest rates in order to boost the economy. And when the economy is booming, is in a very good phase, there might be a lot of inflation. That's why sometimes they might raise the interest rate in order to cool down the economy and to keep the balance. So if we have correlation between investments and savings, because if savings are too high, then a lot of people will have a lot of money, and this will drive the price of materials, for instance. So we want to keep the demand for materials and the amount of money people are getting in equilibrium. So because if we have a lot of materials, we want people to have a lot of money to buy those materials. But if we don't have a lot of materials, we don't want a lot of people to have a lot of money, because that will create inflation. If we have a lot of money in the economy, so if the interest rates are low, a lot of people want to borrow money, and if the interest rates are low, they can borrow that money, and they will buy a lot of materials, so they will make a lot of investments when the interest rates are low, but that will lead to inflation. But for instance, if we have very high interest rates, then not a lot of people can borrow, and that won't drive the prices up so much. But it's important to keep both of those forces in equilibrium in here, where we have a balance between the amount of money, the supply of money, and money demand. So where the money demand equals money supply, and where investments, so the amount of materials purchased, etc., equals the amount of money that people can spend. So in this point of equilibrium, it's a point, it's in here, right? It's a point where the economy is in balance and the money markets are in balance. So the amount of money that people want and the amount of money that banks can provide is equal, and the amount of materials people want to buy and the amount of materials that can be bought are also the same.